10 causes of death of the last popes. Pope Pius X, 1903 to 1914. Cause of death: myocardial infarction, heart attack. On the night of August 20th, 1914, Pope Pius X died at the age of 79 in the Apostolic Palace in Rome. The medical cause was an acute myocardial infarction, a sudden heart attack that occurred in his private chambers. Days earlier, severe bronchitis had undermined his robust health, leaving him debilitated. According to contemporary accounts, the pontiff was deeply distressed by the outbreak of World War I that same summer, which worsened his condition. Some even poetically said that he died of grief as he watched the world slide toward war. Pius X had enjoyed relatively good health during his papacy, but his final months were marked by this respiratory decline and anxiety over the world situation. He was 79 years old, an advanced age for the time, and had 11 years of a difficult pontificate behind him. The outbreak of the Great War, just 3 weeks before his death, caused him great concern. He spent long hours in prayer for world peace, which, coupled with his bronchial illness, sapped his strength day by day. The news of his death came amid the initial war tensions of 1914. The Catholic Church and the faithful received the news with sorrow, although the world's attention was focused on the impending war. Even so, Pius X was sincerely mourned by Catholics. His simplicity in personal death, complications for Catholics, canonized, confirming the veneration that many had for him since the moment of his death. Pope Benedict XV, 1914 to 1922. Cause of death: complications of bronchial pneumonia. Pope Benedict XV, successor to Pius X, died on January 22, 1922, at the age of 67, after just over 7 years of pontificate. The cause of his death was pleurisy, a severe inflammation. The disease progressed. The context of his death was marked by physical after the Great War. The immediate reaction display in the 1939 funeral and burial in the Vatican. Died on February. Pope Pius XI, 1922 to 1939. Cause of death: myocardial infarction, heart attack. Pius XI died on February 10, 1939, at the age of 81, after 16 years at the head of the church. Medically, he suffered World War II in marked decline of an era, current global situation. Immediately, added Catholicism through November 9th, 19 in the world. Pope Pius XII, 1939 to 1958. Cause of death: myocardial infarction and complications of circulatory failure. Pope Pius XII died on October 9, 1958, at the age of 82, at the papal residence of Castel Gandolfo. The official version indicated that he died of acute heart failure caused by a myocardial. His 19-year pontificate. The context of it before his death, and from around disrupted. His controversial death was stomach on the 23rd. His controversial legacy and dramatic 63. His controversial legacy and dramatic end deeply marked a generation that said goodbye to him. Pope John the 23rd, 1958 to 1963. Cause of death: stomach cancer, gastric adenocarcinoma, affectionately known as the 63. The Vatican publicly reported the seriousness of his condition, preparing the faithful for the worst. In his final days, John the 23rd suffered intense abdominal pain and extreme weakness. Finally, on the afternoon of June 3rd, he surrendered his soul after a serene agony surrounded by his close aides. The context of John the 23rd's death was marked by the Second Vatican Council, which he himself had inaugurated in 1962. Despite his illness, the Pope had enormous affection for him. In a show of affection, work would continue, bringing comfort and purpose to the Church amidst its sadness. Pope Paul VI, 1963 to 1978. Cause of death: myocardial infarction, heart attack. Pope Paul VI died on August 6, 1978, at the age of 80, at his summer residence in Castel Gandolfo. The cause was a massive myocardial infarction, heart attack. resulting from his poor health and advanced age. That afternoon of August 6th, the feast of the Transfiguration of the Lord, a significant day for him, he suffered sudden, intense chest pain. Doctors rushed to him and managed to keep him alive for a few hours, but his heart finally gave out at 9:41 p.m. In his later years, Paul VI suffered various health problems, including pastel-gan. The context in which this death occurred was particular social changes. His death ushered in an unusual period. 1978 would be called the Year of the Three Popes, for within a span of weeks, the Church would lose Paul VI, elect John Paul I. Paul VI, being the height of thousands of people attend, to Paul VI, quickly gave way to the conclave of August 1978. Number 28. Pope John Paul I, 1978. Cause of death: acute myocardial infarction. John Paul I, the smiling Pope, had one of the shortest pontificates in modern history, only 33 days on the papal throne. His sudden death on the night of September 28, 1978, shocked the Catholic world. Albino Luciani was 65 years old and apparently in good health, so his death was completely unexpected. The official cause of death was an acute myocardial infarction, a heart attack, while he was sleeping. The next morning, September 29th, his aides found him lifeless in bed, with the light on and some papers reading in his hands. Everything indicated that his death occurred painlessly during sleep, probably around 11 p.m. the previous night. No autopsy was performed, partly because of the medical certainty of a heart attack, and also due to Vatican regulations at the time, which later raised questions. The context amplified the impact of this death. John Paul I had been Pope for just over a month, during which time the death of Paul VI, and was starting protocol. Pope John Paul II, 1978 to 2005. Cause of death: severe heart failure and multiple organ failure. John Paul II, who was Pope for 27 years, died on April 2, 2005, at the age of 84, after a prolonged illness. The final cause of his death was multiple organ failure caused by complications of Parkinson's disease, aggravated by a generalized infection. In his final months, he suffered repeated infections, including a severe urinary tract and lung infection, which, combined with the weakness caused by Parkinson's disease, led to septic shock, a blood infection, and irreversible heart failure. Pope Benedict XVI, 2005 to 2013. Cause of death: multiple organ failure related to advanced age. Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, who had resigned the pontificate in 2013, died on December 31, 2022, at the age of 95. His death was caused by the worsening of age-related ailments. The specific cause reported was heart failure, the terminal weakening of his heart. In the weeks prior, his health had deteriorated markedly. Indeed, at the end of December, Pope Francis had asked for prayers for his ailing predecessor. Joseph Ratzinger had long suffered from general frailty, loss of muscle mass, and occasional respiratory problems, typical of his advanced age. Finally, final page, and during that time, his health slowly declined, but without serious crises until the final days of 2022. At 95 years old, Benedict XVI was lucid but physically very weak. There was no prolonged public agony as with John Paul II. In this case, the news broke when he was already very close to death. His secretary and the few who assisted him were at his side in his final hours. His death, on New Year's Eve, following his resignation, it did prompt a global reflection on the papacy emeritus and the example of humility that Ratzinger left the world. Pope Francis, 2013 to 2025. Cause of death: heart failure due to respiratory complications. Pope Francis died on April 21, 2025, at the age of 88, ending nearly 12 years of pontificate. The cause of his death was a massive cerebral stroke, cerebral hemorrhage, that caused an immediate coma, followed by irreversible cardiorespiratory collapse. At 7:35 a.m. on that Easter Monday, Jorge Mario Bergoglio expired at Casa Santa Marta, his Vatican residence. According to the official medical report, the stroke was large and sudden, and despite prompt care, he was unable to recover from the coma. His medical history included hypertension, and in February 2025, he had suffered from severe bilateral pneumonia that kept him hospitalized for 38 days. This respiratory illness left him noticeably weakened, and although he returned to his duties, his physical condition remained fragile. At Easter 2025, he presided over the rites with visible difficulty speaking, but with determination. Sadly, the following day, he suffered a fatal stroke. Doctors certified his death after performing an electrocardiogram, following the protocol for confirming the pontiff's death. The context of this death was that of an elderly but active pope until the end. Francis was the pontiff who broke several molds. The first Latin American and severe pneumonia raised concerns about his health, but he recovered enough to return to the Vatican. His death in the midst of Easter season took many by relative surprise. Although his ailments were known, he passed away peacefully in his room after receiving immediate assistance that unfortunately failed to reverse the massive neurological damage. The immediate reaction to Pope Francis's death was candles and prayed as soon as the news spread, transforming the place into a moving gathering place. Soon, long lines of people began to form to pay tribute as his body was laid to rest. From the United States to the Philippines, cathedral bells rang out and masses were celebrated for the deceased pontiff. The international press devoted extensive coverage, recognizing Francis as a transformative figure for the Church, reflecting the immense influence he had beyond Catholics. A pope who lived with humility and dedication until the very end.
This video with your friends and family.